So wait, so
mental.
how do you actually get addicted to opioids? It's like, was it a party or is it like a pain medicine?
Well,
Like,
I needed it for I needed it for physical pain, more like sciatica.
For real, I really do think this episode will impact some lives, and I'm really excited to see
That's why we're here.
people talk
That's
about
it.
that.
I mean, you motivate, inspire, impact lives.
Yeah. All right, welcome to the Digital Social Hour. I'm your host, Sean Kelly, along with our co-host today, Wayne Lewis.
What up, what up?
And our guest today, Darren Prince.
Thanks for coming.
53 years old.
Man,
Right.
you gotta teach us some tips on that. You're looking good for 53.
Well, I know we're going to dive into the celebrity and the superstar athlete stuff, but it's really my recovery, man. I'm coming up on 15 years sober in July, and I think things are reversed. You know, it's so important to be not just physically fit. I tell people you have to have the mental and the spiritual component too.
Right.
And how to,
Was
know how
it
to
just
balance
alcohol?
life,
It was alcohol? Or
No, it's opiates.
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 Oh.
Wow.
And here I get sober, and my girlfriend wound up getting younger. She just turned 26. So
What?
literally about a week ago, it was her 26th
That's my
birthday.
age.
So if I would have known you put 15 years of recovery together, you can look like this, feel like this, and get a young, beautiful
Amazing.
girlfriend that she's got even a more beautiful heart. So
That's
I'm in a
dope.
really good
How long
place.
you guys been dating?
About 2.5 years.
Oh, nice.
How'd you meet?
Out here.
Oh, yeah?
Actually, at a convention, and she
Okay.
lives in LA. I live I'm in Brentwood. She's in Hollywood.
Nice.
So she likes older men.
I think it's interesting. My girlfriend before that I turned 50 and she was 28.
Okay.
But you sometimes hear about this. It's almost like as you get older, you kind of know more what you want, and we made all the mistakes. So women don't want to be playing the games either
Right,
because they're also getting jerked around too.
Right.
And sometimes they're not ready. So when you're in that fun, playful stage, I get it.
It's
I've
all
been
good.
there.
Mm.
But you get to a point you want some more stability,
Right.
and you want somebody that's got their life together. It works.
Yeah. So let's dive into the celebrity agent stuff and how you got started there. What was that first starting couple years like for you? Like, it must have been hard to get that first client.
Oddly enough, let me take you back to the beginning. It wasn't, because I know we met when at Dan Fleischman's 100 Million Mastermind event when I had Magic Johnson and Dennis Rodman there. So
Right.
I started a baseball card business long before you guys were born in 1984. The company blew up. I sold it when I was 19. Started doing autograph signings, bookings, private signings, appearances, but none other than Muhammad Ali. He was the
Wow.
first guy I started working with.
Wow.
And then Muhammad's agent brought me into the fold, pushed me to get smoking Joe Frazier because I was an East Coast boy and Joe was an hour and a half away in Philly. Built a rapport with him. Eventually got to Magic in Los Angeles through his longtime player rep at the time and business associate Lon Rosen. And we were just off to the races, booking all these autograph signing events. And Chevy Chase came into my life through a mutual friend, and then Pamela Anderson, and then Dennis Rodman, right in the middle of the heyday of the Chicago Bulls run. And I transitioned out of the business, not by choice, but it turned out to be a blessing. I talk about it in my book, Aiming High. I was investigated by the FBI. One of the merchandise products we were selling was Michael Jordan autographs. And apparently there was like some enormous fraud scheme going on that these autographs were questioned about their legitimacy. And forensic document experts that worked for the FBI were actually authenticating it.
Wow.
After a couple-year investigation, I literally, first time in my life, wound up having a ton of financial issues. I offered refunds to customers to keep my reputation intact. If the items looked so good, a lot of them didn't even take a refund. They were just like,
Wow.
Wait,
they had these Michael Jordan famous slam dunk Gatorade picture with the gorgeous autograph. A lot of people took it, but it was one of those transitions in life when you guys are young, understand that adversity really reveals your character. Because I was on a fly fishing trip with my dad.
So were the autographs authentic or not?
They were not. No. Everything else I had was authentic because
So
I
the
was
cards
there.
was actually authentic. The autographs just wasn't.
The merchandise itself,
Mhm.
but the autographs were not. But they were so good
Wow.
that it was incredible. Even
So
to
it
an
even
expert
slipped
like
past the FBI.
The FBI literally.
You didn't get into business to run payroll, did you? That's okay, I didn't either. Now there's Gusto. Gusto not only offers payroll, but also benefits, onboarding, and HR all in one place to more than 300,000 businesses. Maybe you want federal, state, and local payroll taxes to be filed automatically no matter where your employers work, or maybe you want to offer a 401k plan to help your employees save for retirement. Do you have compliance with regulations? 3 out of 4 employers say Gusto makes it easier to be compliant with the government. With Gusto's simple, guided software and user-friendly interface, payroll and HR are no longer exhausting, they are rewarding. Gusto was built for small businesses from the start. Gusto takes the pain out of payroll benefits and HR and puts the joy back into running your business. Gusto also integrates with your favorite tools like QuickBooks, Xero, Google, and more. Want all this and more with no hidden fees? Try it out for 3 months for free at gusto.com/social. That's gusto.com/social.
I literally got involved. It started.
Wow.
It started with a phone call, man. I tell you, it's the craziest story. I'm literally in New York City with Muhammad Ali and his wife Lonnie, and I get home about an hour later. It was on a Sunday night. I'll never forget it. And I get a call from an FBI agent in Chicago, offering me money to come out there and help this investigation because they know I'm an expert in the autograph industry.
Wow.
So I'm thinking, oh, this is right. I just left the GOAT in New York City. I'm high on life. I'm this 25-year-old, punk, arrogant kid from the suburbs. I think I can't do anything wrong in life. And the next morning is when I knew things got a little weird because this associate called and asked if I had an attorney.
Whoa.
So I called my lawyer, who was local, and he goes, let me call them. Don't get involved. And they didn't get me on mail fraud. It was I was very loyal to the guy I built a rapport with. I actually thought he was legit, and he thought they were trying to get him on tax evasion. And I sort of gave a false statement on a situation that happened with him and the merchandise, and my phone's tapped.
Whoa.
And it completely conflicted my story. So they couldn't get me on mail fraud because there was no proof. And obviously I had all these incredible relationships. It was just young and dumb and probably should have been doing more due diligence rather than being so trusting. And the incredible thing was Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, Rodman, Magic and his guy, they all sent letters to the judge.
Whoa.
And,
They all had your back?
Yeah, to get my back.
Wow.
So,
that's
but
powerful.
what happened was now transitioning to Prince Marketing Group, I'm on the balls of my ass for the first time financially in my mid-20s.
Right.
And I'm on a fly fishing trip with my dad in Alaska. I took the last $3,000 to my name because I wanted to just get out of here. And he looks at me on the boat and he goes, what's your next move? What do you want to do in life? You're going to go back into the business? And I was like, Dad, you know what? These haters, I'm starting to learn. Like when I'm on top and everybody wants something from me and they all wanted pictures and autographs and to meet these men and women, everybody loves me. Now it's like I feel like I'm getting kicked when I'm down and I want to be an agent. I was like, I really think I could do it, but I don't have 8 years to go to law school. He drops the fishing pole and he looks at me and goes, law school? Why do you need to be a lawyer to be an agent? I'm like, I thought all agents are lawyers. He goes, life is about who you know, not what you know. You realize the relationships you have right now? Yeah, and he starts going down the list. And because you can go to Ollie's farm in Berrien Springs, Michigan, or Magic's house in Beverly Hills, or Chevy's in New Bedford, or go see Pam and Tommy in, Malibu. And he goes, I would probably start with Magic. He knows about making mistakes. He was 3-4 years removed from the whole HIV situation, and he goes, he's had your back. And so I was like, all right. About a month later, I was with him in Michigan, and we had a autograph signing appearance, and he knew I was struggling financially and always concerned about it, trying to help me, make some extra money and whatnot. I had to get rid of all my staff. It's a really tough time for me. The only blessing was I wasn't married and I had no kids, so I remember I can get through this a lot easier because I just got me to worry about, and this will be a painful learning experience. And we're in a hotel suite in Michigan. He asked me to come to his room to go over the plan for that day. And it was almost like a godsend. Like, I love telling this story because I come in, he goes, come here, boy, sit down. He goes, what's happening? How you doing? How's mom? How's dad? How's your sister? And so he's got that $1 billion smile. And he goes, how you doing? And it was almost like the same question my dad asked. Like, what are you going to do now? And I'm so nervous. My hands are clamming up. I'm like, I got to do it. I got to do it. This is that one time in life. If I don't go for it right now. And I said, I want to be an agent. I think I could do it. You know, I really think if I put myself out there with everybody I built relationships with, he put his arm on my shoulder. He goes, boy, he goes, you know, you're a good dude. He goes, you made a mistake, and we all make mistakes. And God tests great men and women, and he's testing you.
That's a
Because
fact.
here's what I'm going to do.
believe that.
I'm going to give you 2 years to be my agent. But if you don't use me to knock down every door to bring in all the celebrities you can, I'm going to fire you before those 2 years are up, because life isn't about how successful I become. I'm going to take it to a level they've never seen with athlete businessmen. It's how successful I make you and everybody else around me. And when you get there, you pay it forward to other people.
Wow.
I couldn't believe it. I'm sitting here, it's like I said, 25, 26, and he literally just more or less said, go out and exploit them. And, you know, literally it was, you know, the next day I got Chevy, I got Joe, it was Pam, it was Rodman. Eventually, within a couple of years, I got Evel Knievel, and then Hulk Hogan, and then Ric
Wow.
Flair, and
Those
Ev.
are all your clients.
So yeah, so and
Crazy.
most are still to this day, and,
Wow.
and it always starts with magic. It is. He's the most selfless human being in the world. Like it's literally at that point where he does not need me. He never needed
Right.
Darren Prince. You know, my
Yeah.
dad at my first and only wedding gave him a big hug because he was there with his wife Cookie and said, "Father to father, I gotta thank you because you needed my
That's
son like
crazy.
a hole in the head." And he goes, "No, man." He goes, you know, it's a very special relationship we have. And,
Yeah.
you know, he lost his dad a couple days ago. I left a message early in the morning because I know the Johnson family's hurting right now. And he had a very special bond with his dad, like I had with mine. And my dad passed away. He literally called when he was in the hospital.
Wow.
The next day, called my mom. Used to call my dad on his 80th birthday. You know, but I get that with all my people.
Yeah.
They're all like that. Hulk Hogan. You know, we're on the phone for an hour yesterday. You know, Jerry West came over 2 days ago.
Wow.
Supposed to be by for 30 minutes. He left 4 hours later. You know, Charlie Sheen, Chevy Chase is coming in town in a few weeks, and it's no business. We're going to go to a Laker game. We're going
You
to
guys
go
are friends.
go to dinner.
Yeah,
We're family. Carmen Electra's dad passed away about 2-3 weeks ago, and you know, we're texting and. You know, thanks, babe. I love you. I appreciate you. Denise Richards, we laugh for both Aquariuses. You know, that there's a love and a bond.
I'm an
The
Aquarius too.
special, way to go, February 6th.
Yeah, February 14th.
Okay, so
Nice.
oh, Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
So
I'm a Pisces.
good for Pisces. So it's my girl.
Nice.
You know,
Okay.
February 23rd.
Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, it's nice that we everybody have that with one another.
So
You know
what-
I'm s-
What makes these celebrities open themselves up so much to you? Because there's not many people they feel that way like about. So
I just think it's the trust. I mean, I was out here last trip I was out here was February, a couple days after Valentine's Day, 16th. We booked Tom Brady for Grant Cardone.
wow, that was you.
So now we have a relationship with Tom Brady.
And
We were the
you
ones
already
that
had
booked.
it.
We booked him for 10x. So when he saw that all over,
I was wondering who did that.
we did it. And interesting enough, he was supposed to do it the year before and then pulled out. There was some issues with some talent, and he gets out of the SCV, and we're literally just chatting. His agent Steven's a sweetheart. They've been together forever. My boy Adam that helped assisted, and Steven, I just prepped him all about me. One of the first things Tom said, he goes, "How's Magic, man?" He goes, "I love it." He goes, "Please send my best." Love
Wow.
that guy. So it always comes back, and Larry Bird. I've been working with Larry for many years, so.
Wow.
It's just the conversation, the love and the admiration, and him and Ric Flair spent some time together at Michigan
crazy.
because Jim Harbaugh is a mutual friend for both of them. It's about 4 or 5 years. He asked about Rick and Hulk. So I think just when that happens, I'm not a name dropper. I'm not sitting here to drop names to impress nobody. I don't need to do that. This is my life.
Right.
I get text messages, phone calls all throughout the day
These are legends.
that I just happen to be blessed to be part of a world where some of the most iconic figures of all time. I call them friends and family. And
But is it hard being in that position, dealing with that many people, different problems, and then also your own, like, how do you have how do you balance all the relationships?
well, I got a great team.
Yeah.
I got a great team. My boy Chris Vovolo just moved down to Tampa literally 2 days ago, and Hulk and Rick are down there. Kevin Harrington, the Shark Tank judge, is a business partner.
Nice.
So you know, he's in this little 15, 20 mile radius. He has such a great, you know, situation. And my boy Steve Simon, we go back since I was 10 years old. We went to high school together and we did our first baseball card show together in 1984. He's the vice president of my agency. I've got my girls in my office. They're deal makers / assistants. I've got you know, a handful of other people, probably 2, 3 Mad Mercedes. I'm trying to think, my boy Frankie. Everybody kind of knows where to pick up the slack. But there are days where I will need to move myself away from PMG because ultimately recovery comes first.
Right.
I've been given a gift. And, you know, when I was on my knees after multiple overdoses on July 2nd, 2008, I screamed out to God, take the money, take the notoriety, take the business. If you give me a single day of freedom to take me out of hell, I'll spend one day at a time taking others out with me. You want to talk about ego crushing. I had that white light moment, and I heard a voice, I've got you and you're ready. And for the better part of 15 years, I don't care what it is. If somebody DMs me, I've got my own foundation. I work for Banyan Treatment Centers. There's 16 properties, 1,800 employees around the country. Nothing's coming before giving somebody the potential to have a brand new life.
Wow.
And my clients even understand that. Nothing.
It's crazy.
Nothing.
So who helps you with your mental battles and the things that you go through? Like, who's your go-to person or your go-to guy or therapist or like?
It's a great question. I mean, I have a lot of spiritual brothers and sisters. I was with Jay Shetty last night. He's
Nice.
my boy.
Yeah.
I
That's
just
awesome.
posted on Instagram. I was with
Yeah.
Lewis Howes.
Wow.
Lewis and I go way back, and you know, we're hugging each other. We haven't seen each other in such a long time. I've also got my own network of spiritual brothers and sisters, and you know, we call it like a sponsor. But my boy Steve's like my big brother. A lot of very well-known recovery advocates. Brendan Novak from Jackass. You know, it's good to have some that you know have a level of recognition and fame too, because it's kind of the world that I'm in.
Right.
Because it's not easy when you think about it. Sometimes, like I think it's a common question: how did you get back into the agent business? How do you
Yeah.
go events? How do you network? How do you eventually put one front of the other? We all have our own level of trauma and issues that have caused character defects as we get older. You address them. You're accountable. Don't point the fingers at nobody but the
But
person you're
do
looking
you
at in the
actually
mirror.
recommend therapy, like actually seeing a therapist, or do you feel like it's easier for certain people to actually use their friends in their core, like their real friends as their therapy sessions? Like, how are you like brutally honest with what you're going through to your people, or there's like like are you selective about who you tell what when it comes to like?
No,
Are you
I
just kind of
think
like
I
I'm feeling right
think
now?
I know what you mean.
I
I
think
know.
Yeah, you know what I'm
it,
saying?
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of people, you know, just can't believe my transparency and my vulnerability. I
feel
know
like
no other way.
transparency is good though.
I don't care. I can walk into the biggest Fortune 500 office in the world. We were working on a big project for Magic with Johnson and Johnson a few years ago during the pandemic, and I remember this woman was talking about some struggles she was having, and bam, I just get it out there because there's never a time where I've ever not opened up where somebody doesn't know someone else that could benefit from my story and my struggle. And that's what not only keeps me sober, with all due respect, I mean, you could see all the pictures with Ali and Fridge and everybody in my book. That's not what made me me. That's not what gave me self worth. That's not what gave me self esteem. Everything
Right.
today's about the cars and the jewelry, and everyone wants the houses and the posting and the filters. I didn't grow up in that era, you know, and that was never me. I grew up having a learning disability. I was verbally teased. I was told I was an idiot. All those names. So that's where that addiction kind of played in, where
Right.
eventually I was able to numb. At the same time, my business started blowing up. So I needed that validation
Yeah.
for myself, not just people telling me, but I needed to feel it. And that's where the substances came in. But truthfully, I tell people all the time, my self-esteem now comes from doing esteemable acts, being there for people that are sick and suffering, being there for people that are struggling with mental health, not just substance abuse, to say it doesn't discriminate.
Right.
Don't matter if you've been, you know, to Yale or jail or Park Avenue or Park Bench. Everybody's up for grabs, and it's tough out there for a lot of people.
What made
Absolutely.
you want to like write a book? Like, what was the thought process behind it? Like, when did you wake up and it's like, I want to write a book, or like what was the feeling behind it? Like what?
So I really never had a plan for my dad when he was alive. He passed in February of 2017. He always wanted me to write one about Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier. And
He wanted you to write a book about Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier?
well, the intro to the book was this moment right here, one of the most historic moments of my life, and the
Oh, that's the younger you.
yeah, that was the younger you.
Wow, it looks totally different.
So so me and my good friend Harlan,
Wow.
we finally were able to get Ali and Frazier together to make peace. You know, the greatest rivalry in sports. Everybody knew.
So wait, Ali and Frazier were like really beefing, like they hated each
Yeah,
other,
always no
like
joke.
bad,
Bad.
Like on site.
yeah,
It was
for
always,
real.
It was
Yeah.
always that way in real life. Yep.
So even if they seen each other at the grocery store,
They would have to separate them. And,
Yeah, it was bad.
for
Yeah.
real.
yeah. Yeah, there was a roast one time. I remember Larry Holmes had to step in, and yeah, they had to sit on the other side of the dais. And so, you know, here I am at this moment, and my dad always wanted me to write about the whole Ali Frazier experience, having dinner with them the night before the NBA All-Star game in 2002 in Ali's suite. But I was like, I don't want to write about the agent life. That's not who I am. At that point, I was, you know, 8.5 years sober. But when he passed, all these crazy, weird spiritual awakenings started happening. I was thinking how lucky I was that my dad had a sober son back for 8.5 years. And I got to go through all that, feeling so comfortable during what should have been the most uncomfortable time of my life, and never thinking about picking up a drink, nothing, knowing that, you know, these are the moments that take my spirituality to another level, where I need to suit up and show up for life. And I got a call from New Jersey's largest alcohol rehab center. They wanted to honor me. I studied with a speech coach for 6 months, did the speech. The next day, Dr. Oz, his producer, calls the rehab. We saw this guy, Darren Prince, on Facebook Live. I'm in New York City the next day on his show with Dr. Oz.
Crazy.
2 days later, Rona Graff from Donald Trump's office, who I had a
What?
relationship with from Celebrity Apprentice, calls and says, I'm so blown away by what I saw on Facebook Live in your speech.
This network
The
is
president would like you to be in the White House next week. He's signing an $8 billion opiate epidemic bill to help, you know, fight.
Wasn't there a big lawsuit that happened?
Well, yeah, against the big pharmaceutical
It
companies.
was
Yeah.
a lawsuit that came to because they're like
Yeah.
addicted, right?
They
So
went
all
bankrupt.
three of those things happen, and I'm on Instagram, maybe about a week after the White House, because I'm posting stuff about being there and being honored to be a part of it. And this publisher in LA, and she happened to be in recovery. So I call these things GMCs because everybody has them, God managed coincidences. And we're sitting in an office just like this, and she's like, I was in LA, I went to see her, and she goes, you're really passionate about your story. She goes, and you're just so authentic. You ever think about writing a book? And I was like, yeah, my dad wants me. She goes, look, I have a publishing company. You got to look at it this way. If you could take people to be a fly on the wall journey of this so-called super agent life, but what it was like to go deep and come out of the other side, this book would be your legacy. You will change and save lives around the world more than anything you've ever done in your life. And that was it. And
It's incredible.
me
man.
and my writer, Kristen McGinnis,
Can't
we
wait to
sat
read
down
this.
and came up with the name. I mean, the
Yeah,
book's
I'm sure
already
that's a-
4.5 years old. I'll have another one coming out, but it's just so pressing. I think after the pandemic, it really hit home for a lot of people, and
Yeah.
a lot are suffering and struggling with mental health and substance abuse. You know,
What would you tell someone dealing with whether it's alcohol abuse, opioid abuse, antidepressant, substance? What advice would you give them?
I just think it's about, you know, being transparent and asking for help. But asking for the help is where the strength comes in. You know, it's just, there's got to be somebody in your life. There has to be. And I've had some incredible moments too, where people
Like an
contact me on
accountability
Instagram
partner?
and say, "Hey, I saw your Jay interview, or I saw you on Jordan Harbinger, or you know, this show or extra." And first thing I do, I drop everything. I don't care if I have interviews set up that day. My office knows. I'm like, that's my, you know, I feel like I'm an ambassador for God now. You know, because there's so many out there, and I need to be a voice, and I need to show people that you could be comfortable. And talk about your deepest, darkest times in life, because when you come out of the other side, I feel it's an obligation that you owe to society to help so many others sick and suffering, you know?
Yeah. So I had agoraphobia at one point, and the reason was it started off as depression, but I was too scared to admit that to other people. And it just turned into agoraphobia, so I couldn't even leave my house.
Wow.
It's called agoraphobia.
Agoraphobia. If I
Agoraphobia.
stepped out of my house, I would have a panic attack and collapse on the sidewalk. Like, it was really bad.
Crazy.
So I had to just start opening up to people. And once I started doing that, everything got so much better.
Yeah.
Once I started admitting
Good
people
for you.
what was going on.
Good for you. That's not easy. A lot of people would have hibernated in their house and just stayed there, and then that's
I
when
thought
it just
that
gets,
was I thought that
that
was a
becomes your
possibility.
life. You know.
Yeah, it was that bad. There's people that are like that for years. Mine was about 4 or 5 months.
They don't snap out of it at all. Even
For
4 or 5
years.
months is a long time.
Long
living
time,
like that.
man.
Yeah, that's
It was
crazy.
bad.
Living that way.
Yeah.
You know. But you know, I was isolating too. You know, and I was playing a double life. People didn't realize they look on the outside and they all thought I had the, greatest life in the world. And
Right.
I
Because
was
they see
home
the
at
photos of
night,
you.
all I wanted to do.
So wait, so
mental.
how do you actually get addicted to opioids? It's like, was it a party or is it like a pain medicine?
Well,
Like, it's
I
different
needed it for
everybody.
I needed it for physical pain, more like sciatica,
Oh,
from
back
working out and
pain.
traveling.
Mm.
But the reality is, there's other things I could have taken. I also knew that opiates were my favorite, and after I got past the whole, before I was an agent, all the illegal. Once I became an agent, I knew I had to. All these morality clauses, I had to be super careful. So I never went near illegal drugs, but
Right.
it was so easy when these doctors saw who I worked for. I mean, there was times I'd bring Smoking Joe Frazier with me to my doctor's office in New York City. I'd get Hulk Hogan on the phone to say what's up to one of my doctors,
And they just
and
give you
they'd
whatever.
think I don't have no problem,
Yeah.
So I'd get all the Percocets, Vicodins, and OxyContins I needed.
Right.
For years it works. It did work, and I'm very careful when I go to high schools. I've done hundreds of keynotes because I don't want these kids getting the wrong idea. But at some point, what was once living to use turned out to using to live, and my superpowers were gone.
Were you living to use, but now using to live?
That what?
You said living to use,
Uh,
but now living.
Yeah, I was living to use, and eventually turned out to using to live.
So you needed it.
Completely flipped.
Yeah.
So I was that guy that'd walk into a room. I remember the Mondra in 1997 in LA. I see Kobe Bryant. I did a little project with him 6 months before me. Rest in peace and all his families. I mean, just
Yeah,
terrible.
that was terrible.
And my boy Dave's with me, and he's just laughing. And I said, "What?" I turn around and he goes, "You're like a machine, but in such a non-offensive way." I say him, he's on the phone. He tells one of his boys, "Hey, yo, I gotta call you back." He goes, "One of my boys is here." He gives me the hug, and we're just shooting the shit. So it gave me superpowers for probably 5 or 6 years, because here I'm still this broken, insecure, uncomfortable, learning disabled kid that was never gonna go anywhere in life, surrounded by the biggest stars in the world. So I'm more or less just trying to survive this fake it till you make it. But like Jay Shetty said to me when I was on a podcast, it's funny because you actually made it and you're looking backwards,
Right.
because that's where the unhealed came from. So I want everybody to say, look at me and look at you. I'm the dumb one, right? I wasn't going to go nowhere.
Right.
Look at me now, ringside at every Tyson fight and on the sidelines at the Super Bowls and walking the VMA red carpet and all these things. Look at me, look at you. But where did that get me? Where did that get me?
I think we all suffer from that though, because I can honestly say that I'm a walking testament of that. I think we all kind of deal with those certain insecurities or those kind of words we remember, and it's like you want to show those people like I'm here,
Right.
and you're there. But I think that's in all of us in a way.
Probably,
right?
well, I don't even know if it's as much of an insecurity. Sometimes it could be like a competitive type of.
Well, yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's a little bit of both. The reason why it's an insecurity is because you're doing that. Obviously, you're sitting here for security. It makes you feel like you're somebody and they're
Right.
nobody. So that's where the insecurity comes in, the ego aspect. It's a fine line.
But
though.
here's the thing: if you get there, then I don't have as much of an issue with it,
Right.
because if you're faking that you're there, that's where there's
The
too many
issues.
That's where
issue,
there's
yeah.
too many issues,
Yeah,
and we know a lot of freaking people on social media
faking
that
Vietnam.
that you want them to think they got the greatest life. Like
Yeah.
I got to a point where it was funny because.
But is the fake it till you make it concept belief? that's kind of needed in all of us, right? Because it's an
It worked-
imagination.
It worked for me, but most
Right.
people go too extreme, I think. With
I
it.
Okay,
think
so-
well, that's if you go to the extreme now, you can coast along.
Is
you can play
extreme
the
staying
game.
there too long? Is extreme staying in the imagination aspect of it too long?
Well, if you don't have a plan to execute, like
Yeah,
if
then that's
it's along the way, if you're looking at a 3, 4, 5 year period and faking it till you make it, but you're evolving, you're making more connections. There's real growth. That has to happen.
Right.
If you're stagnant and all it is that dopamine hit for your ego
Yeah,
or your
yeah.
insecurity, no, you gotta
Agreed.
call yourself out on your own. Sorry.
Accountability.
You know,
You gotta
can't be
level up.
doing that. You're not going to get nowhere.
Accountability. Yeah.
I fortunately didn't have to do that. I probably say my more fake it till you make it came from the addiction. You know, I was like, how the am I going to get out of this? Like,
Right.
I was trying to show everybody that I was calm, cool, collected.
So you were
You know.
hiding the addiction.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
How did
You're-
you break it though? Oh,
But it wasn't even break it. It was literally I was at my wit's end, and I kind of shared about it earlier. My uncle, who may he rest in peace, and his then girlfriend visited my mom in New Jersey, and I'm like, I literally had an overdose out here at the 2007 NBA All Star game in February.
At the game.
Rodman, me and my boy Steve, we were celebrating a TV show deal that we did with Mark Cuban, Geek to Freak for his HD net. And I had a horrible case of bronchitis. And one of my favorite things was Tussie and X cough syrup, which was a heavy opioid based cough syrup. It tasted like pineapple juice. And so I called the doctor to the room. Gives me a prescription for that, about 100 Vicodin, some antibiotic. I go to one of the Walgreens, and I'm driving back in a taxi. There was no Uber back then. And I called my then wife. I was married. I said, order me 3, 4 vodka, Red Bull, and cranberries. I'm getting ready to go out. And, I chopped up 4 or 5 Vicodin, snorted them, half the
Jeez.
bottle of Tussinex, 2, 3 vodka, Red Bull,
Jesus
cranberries.
Christ.
And,
that's for one person,
yeah, just for my...
and that was just for you to go out to the club, just to have a good time.
Yeah, that was just to get ready to go out.
But now, is it a high feeling or is it just like a mellow you out? Like what feel? Is it like a?
At
What feeling is
that
that?
point, it was balancing me out. I needed to get out of self.
So
That's
you
what
were.
that
It wasn't like oh I'm high on life or anything. It was
No,
just
I-
like
I-
I'm here, I'm present.
Yeah, no, I was present, exactly.
Whoa.
And I wasn't feeling good to begin with, so I just got to like shock my system. And
Right.
normally I could handle something like that, but I think I don't know what it was, but within a matter of
The
5
bronchitis
minutes, man,
probably.
I'm on the ground.
Wow.
My hands are sweating.
Jeez.
I'm freezing. I've got the chills. I feel like I'm foaming out of the mouth. My wife goes crazy, calls 911. The paramedics come up to the room, and I'm literally like, my God, don't take me. I don't know what the hell I did. I'll never do this again. And paramedics came into the room, a needle in my arm, oxygen mask in my face, EKG machine everywhere. And I never made it out that night, clearly.
You were
And,
unconscious
this is the definition of insanity. So I wake up about 3 in the morning. Steve took dentist wherever they had to go. And I look in the mirror and I look at myself, man, bags under my eyes. I'm bloodshot. I'm just really pale white and bloated, a lot heavier than I was now. And I'm like, you sick bastard, man. Who does this? Like, you're out here for NBA All-Star Weekend. Like, you have so much going on. And literally with that, I chopped up 2 or 3 more Vicodins. I snorted them. And I took the other half bottle of Tussinex cough syrup and I drank it. And I went back into the bed. And they say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And, so I went to an addiction psychiatrist 3 days later when I got back to New Jersey. That's where I was living at the time.
So wait, what happened that day? Like, were you just fine? Did you get
Yeah,
stroked?
because I'll tell you what happened. My sick, diseased, addict brain said it was the vodka, Red Bull, and cranberry that did it.
Mm.
That's what it was. Because I always would do Tussinex and Vicodin.
So you
It's
just
the
went to
fact that I
sleep after
mixed
you-
it with the Red Bull
So,
bucket.
so the day before, right, that happened. But then you went in the bathroom the next day, and then you took that, you chopped up, and just laid down, and you
Laid
perfect.
down, and I was just did my
Perfect.
normal floating and relaxing, and eventually passed right out and went to bed.
Oh.
So again, we're just very deranged people, and I thought it was the vodka, Red Bull, and cranberry. That's what put me over the edge, and quite possibly did because of the Red Bull and the alcohol combination. But I wound up getting home that week. Started with an addiction psychiatrist. He put me on Suboxone, which is an opiate blocker. I'm also taking. I'm on an antidepressant, anxiety pills, a mood stabilizer. Still probably drinking a couple days a week. I'm taking Ambien at night. And I lived that way for about 8-9 months. I was just a shell of myself. And then
Isn't it weird that they treat addiction with more,
But
more
looking
pills?
back at it,
You
well
have to,
no,
bro.
let me rephrase that. He didn't know about all the other stuff. He gave me
Oh, okay.
Suboxone. So I'm lying to my psychiatrist on top of it.
Damn.
You know,
He couldn't even help you the right way.
he's helping me with the opiate part by giving me Suboxone. I'm just not telling him that I'm taking Ambien at night. I'm still taking Xanax for my nerves. I'm on a mood stabilizer, drinking a few days a week. All the other things you're not supposed to be doing because I was just miserable.
Right.
And that's when my uncle and his then girlfriend came to my mom's place to see them, and they paid me a surprise visit. And I was just done. I was spent. My ego was too big to go to rehab because the agency was too big. And this woman, Andrea, I never met her before, looked at me and she's like, "Are you okay?" And I opened up to her. First person, we just talked about vulnerability. I was never this way. That was the first time I told her everything that was going on. And she's like, "Do you realize you're an addict? Your life's unmanageable." And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "Do you realize that, you're powerless and you have a disease?" And I said, "Yeah." And she's like, "Do you realize that it doesn't discriminate as well?" And that's what broke my soul and made me start to cry. And she goes, "I can help you." And it was about 24 hours later on that detox where I had that God moment where I ran into the bathroom. I told them I couldn't do it. I was looking for anxiety meds, and out came 3 Vicodins, and it was such a relief. I was like, exactly what I needed because all the opiates were gone in the house at that point, we thought, except these last 3. And I guess I wanted I had to give to desperation, man, because I fell on my knees and called out to God. And 30 minutes after that moment happened, I'm in a taxi on a beautiful night in New York City, July 2nd, 2008. I walk into a church basement with 150, 200 addicts and alcoholics who were all once of a hopeless state of mind. And I put my hands up and they said, "Is anybody new coming back or sick and suffering?" And this so-called super agent was a big-time fraud because I couldn't stay sober for 1 or 2 hours at a time.
Wow.
And these spiritual brothers and sisters changed my life one day at a time.
Wow.
And poured love into me when I never knew how to love myself. They taught me about the 5 A's: attitude adjustment, accountability, action, and acceptance. And little by little, I started doing the work on myself and became whole. And then the real gift came and I got to start helping other people.
Nice.
You have an incredible story, man. We could talk for hours.
Yeah.
For real. I really do think this episode will impact some lives. And I'm really excited to see
That's why we're here.
people talk
That's
about
it.
that.
I mean, you motivate, inspire, impact lives.
Yeah.
I think you guys are blessed and gifted to have this platform that you have and get the guests that you have and have the voices that you have. And I get it, entrepreneurship's important. But
Where can they get your book?
and anybody can get it on Amazon or Barnes and Nobles. I mean, it's been out forever. And if you have any viewers that are watching, I know it's tough out there for people. Just message me at agent_DP on Instagram. We send them out for free.
Wow.
And
Wow.
shout out, like I said, Banning Treatment Center. They've always supported me and my guys at Bridge Therapeutics. I'm also on the commercial advisory board. We have an amazing product out there that's gonna eventually get to market and help opiate addicts transition into the life that they deserve. And
Wow.
here I am as an agent, and these opportunities are now coming to me.
Right.
So I tell a lot of people, like, the agent life is a byproduct to eventually be a voice to get messages and products and whatever is out there to help people get the life that they deserve. The greatest feeling in the world.
Right.
It's got nothing to do with money.
Incredible,
This is
man.
like, I could lose the agency tomorrow. You guys would still have Darren Prince sitting here. We'd sit back and I'd be like, man, I've been blessed for 30 years. I got so many stories for you guys. You have no idea.
I love your mindset,
I'd
man.
still figure life out,
Darren, it's been a pleasure. It really has. Where can they find you in?
At agent_DP on Instagram. My Facebook is Darren Prince. I think it's Brentwood, California. And then the agency website is www.princemarketinggroup.com. And one more shout out, if anybody, you got the resources, my aiminghighfoundation.org, 100% of the proceeds goes to scholarship, people that can't afford treatment for mental health and substance abuse.
Nice.
Amazing. Wayne?
My Instagram is @thecreator, spelled THECR38TOR.
Sean Kelly. Thanks for tuning in this week on the Digital Social Hour. That was a great episode. See you guys next week.
Peace.